Hey, welcome to Film versus Movie, the podcast where we debate the cinema you hate. I'm your co-host, Belton DeLaine-Facey.
And my name's Chris Shurr.
And on this podcast, we watch the films that have been slandered, desecrated, and forced to live with their creepy uncle by public opinion. And one of us tells you why it's actually pretty good.
And the other one tells you why it's a steaming pile of shit.
And today, we have a guest with us, so please give a warm welcome to our good friend and CG artist, Vera Perez.
Hello.
And Vera, would you like to tell people the movie we will be discussing today?
We will be discussing 13 Ghosts from 2001 with Matthew Lillard, a.k.a. Shaggy.
Yes, Matthew Lillard, who should have been the star of this movie.
He was the star, in my opinion.
Yeah, so basically the film's about a family. They are suddenly in a house and they are being hunted by ghosts. Now for the detailed plot, the film opens with a ghost hunter named Cyrus with his psychic assistant Arthur, and they capture a ghost in, was it like a tire yard?
It's an auto body wreck, or it's where they like break down cars, but not a chop shop. It's like a junkyard.
Okay, junkyard.
Yeah, they bring out this like big plexiglass cube, which like I feel like they just borrowed from a fetish production shoot, where they're just like, oh yeah, you're in the glass. I don't know, but they got the big cube, and then they summon the ghost with like a spell, which was just Latin words being played over a loudspeaker.
That opening scene to me always feels like the opening of Jurassic Park, the original, where they're capturing the dino and someone gets caught in the cage with them and someone just like, shoot her. I expect someone to be screaming something like that in that scene as well.
Yeah, except when someone gets trapped in that, let's call it a cage with the ghost they capture, none of them even try to rescue him. They were just like, well, sucks for Marvin.
Well, they're all dead.
Yeah.
Literally, they summoned the ghost and it just ripped up half of their party.
Yeah, that's true. Like a lot of people there died, including Cyrus.
Yeah.
I like how also they rolled up to capture this ghost and they're like, we need a lure, get the blood truck. And they just have this massive blood truck and just like, where did they get all that blood from?
From the blood bank.
Oh, yes. So I'm just going to roll up to the blood bank with the truck and be like, fill me up.
Oh, I always thought they just got the truck. Like it was a standard issue truck. And then the ghost was what made it bloody. Okay. And then so after the opening scene, the capitalist ghost investor, Cyrus, gets killed. He's one of those old school, like 30s tycoons who's always talking about the greatness of man. Where he's just like, man needs sacrifice to be great. And he had to capture ghosts to do that. So he dies. Next scene, they cut to the guy who plays Monk.
Yeah. Arthur, who's played by Tony Shalhoub, he is recently widowed, has 2 kids, Kathy and Bobby, and they have a babysitter, Maggie, who, let's get this out of the way, she is just a stereotypical sassy black woman.
Yeah, I don't think she got a script. They're just like, respond to things.
Yeah, because like not only was she a sassy black woman, they also deliberately made her lazy at her job.
Oh yeah, they walk into the house. She's like, I know I do not do windows. I'll let you know. Straight up.
Yeah.
Okay, but also I'd say that walking into that house.
Yeah.
Because it was all windows.
Yeah. So Arthur, he's informed by Cyrus's lawyer that Cyrus is his uncle, that very distant from, barely saw them throughout their lives, but he inherits Cyrus's fortune. So they go to Cyrus's house because they live there now. And
I'd like to just point out that the will was read on like a video player, for an old school video player that just like only existed to play that one video. Like there is demonic symbols in the background of it, and it looks like someone programmed the screen just so he could read like some ominous speech about how he's giving him a new house.
They also like did this thing where it's like the screen would pop up and then it comes back up. He's like, oh, one more thing. It's like he forgot.
Yeah, it's like how are you this rich and can't afford a decent video editor?
They're just like, oh yeah, we're going for one take, and he's like, how about 3 smaller takes? This is my will and testament, you know. Let's add some drama to it.
They even went so far to have little smoke coming off on his desk in front of him too. It was just like so extra.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you have that much money, it's like at some point you need fun things to spend it on.
A ghost house.
Yeah, that's the problem with billionaires in real life. They spend their money on the dumbest things. Like at least just have a bit more pizzazz in your life.
Yeah, that's true. But also think about the thrashing like Jeff Bezos would get on the internet if you found out he was building a ghost house. They're like, oh, Jeff Bezos put in the GDP of a small country into, you know, phantoms and wraiths.
I mean, he had one thing that really like differentiated was the one samurai statue.
Oh yeah, that I feel like the samurai statue is the most normal thing in that house.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when the family gets to the house, I think I incorrectly called the psychic assistant Arthur. His name is Dennis in the film. He's there disguised as like a maintenance guy, and so he goes into the house with them. And while he's there, he discovers that all the ghosts he and Cyrus captured over the years are just trapped in the basement. And so he tries to warn Arthur, but the lawyer Cyrus hired while picking up this bag of money in the basement unknowingly triggers a mechanism that puts the entire house on lockdown, and he dies when a glass door closes and splits him in half.
Dude, this director loves splitting people in half.
that was the lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love how later like Maggie comes around and is like, did the lawyer split after he splits in half?
Oh my god! I'm sure the screenwriter, when they came up with that lie, was just like, "Yes, this is perfect."
There were so many like little quips here and there that were like, okay, this is not supposed to be taken seriously like that.
Yeah. All right. And so soon after the family splits up, they're attacked by the various ghosts that are trapped and now released. And during the first attack, they're saved by Kalina, who's, I guess the best way to describe her is an extreme spiritual rights activist. She's there to free all the ghosts.
Yeah, she's kind of like Ghost Greenpeace.
In the beginning of the movie, in that like junkyard scene, she goes, "You can't do this. These are not animals. They're human beings." And it cuts to Shaggy and goes, "Dead human beings."
Yeah, and so while she's there, she explains the house is actually a machine powered by the ghosts and allows the user to see past, present, and future, and can only be shut down by a sacrifice of love, which heavily implies Arthur sacrificing himself for his kids.
Just to go back, you know what? Why was Matthew Lillard so surprised to find out the ghosts were in the house? Like, what did he think Cyrus was doing with the ghosts after they captured him?
I think he just got a big enough paycheck to not ask questions.
Yeah,
he was also like, there's a scene where he touches Cyrus and Cyrus like pushes him away. He's like, "Don't get too curious." Yeah. Also, I love how when he's like pretending to be like a power electric guy checking the house and everything, he's wearing like the getup, and on the back it just says like power and light generic, but also at the same time he's wearing a full like suit and everything underneath the
he's wearing like a flashy suit, like the shirt's bright red too. There was no need to wear all that.
Yeah, no need at all. And he just like casually, all right, take it off, and it's like you were able to fit all that underneath there.
Yeah.
Just curious what his backup plan was. Like the lawyer ropes up and he's like, "You're not the power and electric guy," and he's like, "I'm not. I'm actually the lawyer. He's an imposter.
No, it's almost like he thought ahead of time. It's like, okay, I'm gonna have to explain some crazy shit to some people. Let me dress nice so they take me seriously.
If you didn't know, for every episode of this podcast, I actually have a 3-piece suit under everything. If I feel like I'm bombing one day, I'm just going to tear it off. And you're going to be like, damn, she's credible now.
Yeah, Chris actually has an endless supply of like rip-off pants. All right. So after they explain all that, they start searching for the kids. Dennis sacrifices himself for Arthur when they're confronted with one of the ghosts. And then soon after, we learn Cyrus is alive. He orchestrated the whole thing. And Kalina is actually his partner and lover. Which I don't know why that's a trope. Like a lot of times when especially a woman is supposed to be on the hero side, but it turns out they're working for a villain. It's like, oh, they're working for the villain because they're fucking them. It's like, is that necessary? Can they not want to do bad things for the love of the game?
Well, that's the thing that Cyrus is the one who is doing bad things for the love of the game. This is like a great case of a villain who's just evil for the sake of being evil. There's no backstory, no tragedy. He just one day inherited $1 billion and he's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to enslave a bunch of ghosts to make a demon computer. And then he's like, you know how I'm going to do it? I'm going to manipulate everybody and just be toxic as fuck, baby.
I also love how in like a lot of movies that are like, this thing was made by someone in the 15th century, design, whatever. They never like mention their full name. They just drop down like a generic first name. They're like, that sounds somewhat medieval. Let's go with that.
Yeah, I feel like because back then it's like you had small towns where I feel like everyone could go by his first names. Like you didn't have 1,500 Johns you knew. It was just like, oh, John, he lives on Millbury Street. That and everyone knows who that is. All right. So yeah, after that, Cyrus kidnaps the kids. Lets Kalina die, which I'm not entirely sure why she was still loyal. Did she like want anything else from him?
She wanted to sleep, but like she loved him. And then he had to do like another evil guy villain power move and just be like, greatness requires sacrifice. I'm gonna not save you.
I also love that like he died in the beginning, and like you saw like an obituary article with him. And he's like, and he comes back later and he's still wearing the same suit with the cut through his neck, all bloody and everything. I know they intended it to go like, oh, he's one of the ghosts, but still, it's been several days since you got that like cut and everything. Didn't change.
Do you think he like reapplied or was it just sitting there the whole time?
Oh, he like saved some of the blood for later and like, let me like put it back on.
Do you think like he had to hire a VFX artist or a VFX makeup artist for that? Or was he just like really good at that kind of stuff?
I would make like if anything, yeah, they probably made like a 3D version of Cyrus in 2001.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm also imagining. I feel like he did that so that if anyone in the house saw him, they would just think he's a ghost. But basically, the only way they can see the ghost in this movie is if they wear these special goggles. So like Arthur figures out he's not the ghost because he can just see him without the goggles.
I forgot about that.
The reviews panned this movie because for the glasses for one, and I think their intention of the glasses was to kind of like recreate the original.
Yes. Oh yeah. No, we can talk. We're gonna talk about that in just a second. Like just end of the plot. Kids are trapped in like this mechanism of just rotating circles. The ghost of Arthur's dead wife guides him to get in there safely. the house collapses. All the ghosts are released. Cyrus dies. Yeah, and now getting to the production history, as you were beginning to mention, this is a remake of a 1960 film, also called 13 Ghosts. It was directed by William Castle, and I have to say William Castle, he sounds like a mix of Jackie Moon from Semi Pro and Dr. Doofenshmirtz from Phineas and Ferb. Because basically, he was known for all these B movies, but each one had some sort of theater gimmick, and he came up with like crazy names for all of them. So, just for some examples, for his film House on Haunted Hill, it had Emergo, which was just a plastic skeleton that was rigged to fly over the theater during the climax.
Wait, so like a movie theater?
Yeah.
And so they had to set up practical effects at every single movie.
Yeah, so like he did like low budget B movies, so it wasn't, they weren't playing at every theater, so he could like set things up. For his film the Tingler, he advertised it was filmed in Percepto, which if you've ever been to a 4D movie theater, it sounds like it was that, but built in a garage. Like he apparently used like surplus military plane parts to create that.
Yeah. And they mentioned that like during the movie at some point, you're going to feel it and you gotta scream and you gotta scream, and that's how they like kind of like raised up the horror on that side.
Yeah, my personal favorite gimmick he had for his film Homicidal, at the midpoint there was a fight break where there was like a 45-second countdown counter on the screen. During that time, you could leave the theater and get a full refund. But what ended up happening is a lot of people would like watch the full movie and then sit through the next showing and get their refund just during the mid break on that one. So he wanted to deter this, so he started having different color tickets. But then he created something called the Coward's Corner. So if you walked out of the theater, you had to walk out this like brightly lit yellow pathway down the aisle with all the lights on you. You had to pass a sign that said "Cowards keep walking," and apparently there was an audio enticing the audience to just chant, calling like "Watch the coward walk," and then to get a refund on your ticket, you pass a nurse that offered to take your blood pressure, and then you had to go to this yellow booth and sign a card saying "I'm a bona fide coward."
I want them to bring that back.
Yeah.
Like for, remember like the paranormal movies and stuff like that? They would always, for the trailers, they never showed you anything from the movies, just the crowds getting scared and stuff like that. Let's replace that with the Coward's Corner. Let's bring that back.
Yeah, honestly, like, I wish he were around today. Just props for showmanship. Like, yeah. I want this man to run his own theater in New York, LA.
It's like, it's so interesting because so much of that 4D theater stuff, you're just like, this sucks. Like, honestly, it's not adding anything to the movie. It's always a little... One time I went to the aquarium and they had a 4D sharks movie. And so we sat in line for an hour and a half and they kept hyping up the 4D aspect of it. We were like, oh shit, this is going to be great. They keep talking about how amazing it is. It's a 15-minute movie. The seats do nothing until one point where a shark jumps out of the water and they just had something that kind of like punched you in the shoulder. So like, this is fun.
They should at least like splash y'all with water and shit.
You got to spritz.
Oh yeah, no, because I remember like I took a trip to Universal Studios. There was they had like a Shrek 4D film. At one point, he sneezes, and they had like water spritz on you for that.
Ooh.
Yeah. So but anyway, so Castle's gimmick for the 1960s 13 Ghosts, it was presented in Illusiono, where like part of the plot for this one, like the remake, is that the characters needed to wear special glasses to see the ghost. So so he had set up where each audience member got a special pair of glasses, and in order, if you wanted to see the ghost on screen, you could put on the glasses and then you see the ghost. Otherwise, you couldn't see them. Although reportedly, if you weren't wearing the glasses, they were like slightly visible on screen.
Yeah. Also, peak 90s and early 2000s fashion with like the glasses and the plastic clear safety vests that do not have any reflection whatsoever.
All right. So the film was directed. This film was directed by Steve Beck, whose only other feature film he directed was Ghost Ship, which we do have an episode on, making him the first director on this podcast to have 2 films we've discussed.
He's on a roll.
We really didn't mean to do that. We did Ghost Ship because I watched it. I'm like, this movie's crazy. And then we asked Vera to do it. And Vera threw out a few movies. And then we ended up with 13 Ghosts. And we were like, oh, shit, it's the same person recorded back to back.
And honestly, 13 Ghosts, I've watched so many times growing up that it popped up and I was like, oh, shit, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so also just a fun note, Matthew Lillard at the time, he coming off of Scream, he passed on a bunch of horror films because he was like, I don't want to do that again. But apparently when he got the script to this, he was like, I can't say no. So I know. So like this film went through a bunch of rewrites. I want to know, what version did he say yes to?
Yeah, I'm just curious. Like, do you think this script read well?
I know, like originally it was more supposed to be like a straight horror, but then when it went through the rewrites, they made it a lot more like campy and trying to bring it back to like the 1960s version of like, woo, that type.
It's funny you bring that up because that was kind of like a similar story to the development of Ghost Ship, where except for that one, it changed a lot because of 9/11.
Yeah, that was.
I'm imagining Steve Beck, like after like all the rewrites for this, he gets Ghost Ship. He's like, all right, I can do what I want, and then 9/11 happens. He's like, God damn it!
Wait, why did they change it to 9/11? Because like, did they like throw a boat into the Twin Towers or something?
It's because no, basically they originally it was like a bloodless like suspense thriller that examine like the complexities of man a bit more, but after 9/11 they were like, we want a straightforward a good guy, bad guy.
Got it.
All right, so
and then the other aspect of that is he never made another film after Ghost Ship. He did this Ghost Ship and then just quit directing. So like he had to rewrite his film for 9/11, and then I guess he was like, I feel like if I do another film, something bad's gonna happen.
He had to leave his ghost in the past.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right. So this film came out in October 26, 2001. At a budget of $42 million. It made $68.5 million at the box office. It currently stands at a 19% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 5.6 on IMDb.
It should be higher. It should be higher.
I think it's fine.
It's a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes in my book.
All right. So now it's time for our opening statements. I will be attacking the film. Chris will be defending.
Yeah. Do you want me to start?
Yeah.
13 Ghosts is a movie that was made in pursuit of entertainment rather than greatness. It embraces its own campiness and ridiculous plot lines and succeeds in its original pursuit. They set out to make a fun movie with demonic ghost technology and a sarcastic psychic, and that's exactly what they achieved.
Oh yeah, the ghost tech, like in the beginning, they went all out and had like a little bobblehead statue on it that was like Bone Daddy, and like, oh hell yeah, we're about this.
All right, my opening statements. I feel bad for Matthew Lillard. He has too much talent and charm to get dragged down by a mismanaged story. I almost called it a mess of a film, but that implies there was a lot in there that was jumbled, which isn't the case. It lacked tension, character depth, and a cohesive direction. This isn't a mess. It's an abandoned construction site where they stopped building a good movie. So before we jump into the discussion, Vera, do you have any initial things to say about the film?
All the ghosts in this film are so well designed. And if you look in the DVD like release, they had in their special features, they had like gone a lot more in depth on each ghost. Each one of them deserves their own horror movie and would do really well, honestly.
Yeah, I think because I mean we also discussed this on the Ghost Ship episode, but like Steve Beck does have a background in VFX, so
that explains so much. Actually, yeah, the VFX work was actually like really well done, especially for that time period. Basilius Machine, like even though it's all just gears, it looks really good for that time period.
Yeah, I was impressed with the house. I think I'm kind of the opinion that this movie is not really a movie. It's just like one big practical effect that they tried to fit a storyline into.
Yeah.
Where that house is such a gorgeous fucking concept in a film that they're like, well, there's got to be something happening inside the house. We've got this sick ass house. And they're like, well, how about it's a demon computer?
Yeah, I mean, that was one thing about the house is that, yes, it has a very interesting look because it's just made of glass with Latin written all over it. But like on first glance,
special glass though, ecto glass.
Yeah, but at first glance, it doesn't look like it functions as a house because they're initially walking around and through the characters, we're supposed to believe this is like an extraordinary mansion, but then it's like none of the bedrooms look inviting, none of the bathrooms look like a place you could be comfortable enough in to take a shower. Like I think it would have been better if like they had that same design, but like a normal house on top, and then it gives them more to discover.
My biggest critique of the house: no rugs.
Well, yeah, I kind of agree with you on that. It doesn't really look like a house in the sense that no one in their sane mind, not even like the gaudiest of rich people, would ever live in a house like that. Just because it looks miserable. You have no privacy. Everything's going to be like cold during the winter. I still think it looks cool as hell. And I don't know, they were checking it out. They hadn't quite moved in yet. That's the other aspect of the house. They're only there to be like, oh yeah, it's the house.
I also love that they mentioned like, oh, all the glass is like ectoglass and stuff like that. Who is manufacturing all this glass, and is Cyrus their only buyer?
I imagine at some point like Cyrus put a pitch out to various companies like, I need ectoglass to protect against it ghosts, and then various companies were like, all right, we'll come up with something, just setting in like some pictures like, I don't know what this dude's talking about.
They just turn around and go like, just sell them the bulletproof glass and just call it a day.
I'm just imagining like a engineer is going home and his like marriage is in trouble, and she's like, why are you always at work? And he's like, oh, I'm the head engineer on the bid to build a bunch of ghost glass. And she's like, you haven't been home for more than 4 hours a day for the past like 6 months. And he's like, yeah, they're paying way too much money for this ghost glass. And we don't even know what that means.
His response is like, I'm sorry, I've been ghosting you.
Yeah, and then like I bring this because this is a thing with Ghost Ship. It's like a lot of shots just feel hastily cut together. Like it had that like early 2000s energy where a whole lot of people are like, oh, quick cuts are a new thing we could use for everything. But it's like they don't use quick cuts as a way to say build tension or elevate action scenes.
They kind of used it just to elevate the ghosts, which was nice. And for a lot of horror films, they they always die as soon as you get a good look at the ghost. This one I liked where because the ghosts you see a lot throughout the film, but they're always presented in this quick cut succession. And for me, it doesn't like detract from the horror of the ghost, because normally once you see it, then you're like, okay, now we can slap that ghost or something like that.
I don't think they're going to build tension with the quick cuts. I think the quick cuts were mostly used to build like chaos and pace. Because if you think about it, everything's kind of normal. Then they get in the house, then things start to go a little wrong. Then the machine starts working. They keep cutting between like the machine to the people, then the ghost to the machine to the people. And the cuts just keep getting quicker as the chaos builds. And then finally, once they're all entombed in there and the ghosts start getting let out one by one, you have this like very interesting pace where it's not just like linear where you're like, oh, and then they go down to help the boy, and then they like, it's just like, here's a ghost, here's the house, it's moving, oh no, someone's being attacked. And it's kind of, I don't know, it kind of gets the vibe of what it would be like to be in that house and have everything go so wrong so quickly.
Maybe the cuts are actually the glasses glitching.
Yeah, I could see that.
I mean, but they don't show the glasses glitching. I think
it's 2001. You know, they didn't perfect their glass technology.
Well, the ghosts rarely move in a straight line. Also,
yeah.
Remember, they have the glasses on, but then the ghosts keep disappearing. So, like, it's not like the ghosts have to travel along in a straight line. It's like they kind of jump a little bit, where you'll be looking at them, and then they'll be right in front of your face in a second.
Even Matthew Lillard's character is like, I hate when they do that. They wait until you're like right up next to the glass, and then they
just chaotic ghosts doing ghost stuff.
I mean, I could understand them going for that. I think with that technique, they still need to like have a bit more time to build suspense, because they don't get because like once characters are aware like, okay, a ghost is near them, they don't give them enough time to like be scared that they don't know where the ghost is. It's like they're just going for jump scares without building up any tension to lead up to it.
They also like they bounce back and forth between these like quick succession jump cuts and then slow-mo throughout the entire film unnecessarily.
When do they use slow-mo?
It was every like random shot. It'll be like just slow. The camera slows, like their movement slows down like all the time.
I guess when like Matthew Lillard was dying, they kept slowing down right as he would get crunched by the ghost.
Yeah. See, like if they had only used slow mo there, that would have made sense given the context of the scene. But they use it throughout, like a lot of the confrontation with ghosts, where it just seems random. It seems like one of those things where it's like, again, at the time, because I believe The Matrix came out before, so people were like, oh my god, oh my god, we can use slow motion, and they just went overboard with that.
Yeah, because like in the first moment they used the slow motion was in the beginning when Lillard's character was talking to Cyrus, and Cyrus is like, where's the ghost? And he goes in full slow-mo, and there was like no point of that.
Yeah, and that was like going back with tension with like the openings, with like the opening scene. You know, like with horror movies, there's a bit of a rule where it's like show the monster as late as possible. The opening scene, they were very quick to show the ghost.
Yeah,
which I feel like that scene would have been a lot scarier if they just picked someone's perspective to watch it from, and then they didn't get glasses until the end. So the whole time we don't know what's truly going on until at the very end, and then we see the ghost.
We should get the little boy's perspective, who's oddly obsessed with death at like 6 years old and everything.
I think that's also who's the real monster of this movie. Like, obviously the ghosts are monsters and they're scary and they murder people and they're acting as antagonists, but who's the real big bad? And it's Cyrus, the guy who's controlling the ghosts. And it's not really revealed that he's that evil kind of mastermind until the end. So I see they waited for their monster reveal until the very end of the movie. It's just the ghosts weren't the monsters. The human was the monster.
So also, what was Cyrus's goal? Like, it's always like this in horror movies where like, oh, in this one, he's trying to open like the eye of hell. And then what? What are you doing after?
So I think like it lets you see the past and the future. So you could like trade stocks on it. You could like predict war. You could essentially, if you knew everything that was ever going to happen and you were competent, you could rule the world to an extent. I mean,
was Cyrus actually competent?
I don't know. Because remember, he said he had no money. And then everyone else is like, oh, yeah, he's really good with his money. And so I can't tell if he's a fraud or not.
Honestly, he probably has money in like some overseas account.
I mean, he got a glass manufacturing company to develop a whole new glass just for him.
Using technology that only exists in like Ghostbusters and Danny Phantom. Like honestly, his motivation kind of falls under a category that's like deal with the devil, which like considering they just want him to be a bad guy, it's like I'm kind of fine with that explanation.
Honestly, my headcanon for this movie is just Jurassic Park with ghosts. We can call it Ectoplasmic Park. And it's like what was the guy from Jurassic Park, the older guy? He just wants to make this park and then like, all right, yeah, you got it. But at the end of the movie, when the house explodes, all the ghosts like leave, and it feels like the end of Jurassic Park where you just see all the pterodactyls just flying away and everything.
Honestly, let's face it, if they ever discover a way for us to see ghosts, some billionaire will turn it into an attraction.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey, pay $70, see your grandma again.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the whole like he's just an evil villain, that's because this is from the early 2000s. And I love it. Like, we need more villains that are just villains for the sake of being villains. Yeah. We don't need tragedy. We don't just give me a billionaire who's like, I got ghost technology. And they're like, why are you doing it? And he's like, because I can. And I'm great. But I was also thinking there's like a few other things where the lawyer had to bring the laptop to them to make sure that they had a way to watch a video from the internet.
And he had it in like a suitcase and everything.
Like he wasn't like, oh, okay, you've got the video. Well, check your email, guys.
I mean, I'm sure that's like a law thing where it's just like he needs to make sure they watch it. Which is like it was 2001. I don't know how much they dealt with technology at the time.
They dealt enough to get ghost technology, that's for sure. I love how the background of the laptop was also like just straight pentagrams and shit like that. It's like Cyrus really was going all out with this like ghost design.
Yeah, it's like he paid someone who just discovered iMovie to put it together. But I also feel like the backstory that this guy's a widow is like it's like I feel like he's just generically a widow in the sense that we know nothing about his life with his wife other than apparently they're a dual income house, and that's why he can't afford to move.
No, his wife was his entire life, because as soon as she died, like 2 months later, he had nothing. He lost everything in the span of like 3 months. He lost a full fucking house. I guess they couldn't sell it.
Maybe it runs in the family where they keep all the money in a suitcase and that burned in the fire.
But yeah, no, I kind of agree with that. I think it's just like general shit. They're like, oh, we need someone who's like kind of sad.
Yeah.
And he cares about his kids. And so they're like, what if the wife died in a fire and her ghost got sucked up into an ion cube that was going to be used to power a demon computer? But
yeah, I'm looking through the IMDb now. His wife doesn't even have a name in the credits.
Wait, what?
I'm looking now. It's like his wife does not. I think okay. I think her name is Jean, but like every other main character has a last name. They have Arthur's last name, which theoretically is his wife's last name, not hers. Like
she also like every scene she was in, she just stands there. Or like yeah, even in the beginning scene where they're having that like flashback and everything, she's just standing outside the window and she like maybe turns back to him, but like it's voiced over dub, so it's not even her talking. Even when she's appearing as a ghost, she still's not talking and everything. She just stands there and stares in like every scene she's in.
Yeah, again, that's something like we kind of discussed with Ghost Ship. It's like when guys are married, their wife is just the idea of a woman. Like, yeah, but it's like I think like plot wise, like how he dealt with his wife that should have correlated to how he's dealing with the ghost. Cause I mean, like he's still mourning his wife, and then he sees her, and it feels like it's not touched on. It's like a moment that means nothing to him. It's only relevant because she gives him an assist later.
Yeah.
I forgot to. I love in relation to the name of the movie. I love how they just put 13, but then replace the TE with another 13, so it's like you're reading 1313 Ghost.
Yeah. I don't. I imagine that's because I'm pretty confident 7 came out earlier than this, but I feel like it was. I'm pretty sure 7 didn't come out like right before this, but they did that. And yeah, 7 came out in 1995, so not close enough where this idea was fresh.
It reminds me of all like online gamer like names where they're like, oh, someone took this name, let's replace the letters with numbers.
Yeah,
we're gonna be edgier that way.
Yeah, except that the thing is, like replacing E with a 3 makes sense. I'm pretty sure like they were. Let me check. Yeah, they replace a T with a 1, which slightly makes sense, but that's not how anyone's gonna read it.
It's Thurleen.
It's as far as I'm concerned, the title is Thur 1, 3, and Ghost.
All right, you want to get to 3 things?
Yep. All right, so now it's time for our concessions. This is where I give 3 things I liked about the movie, and Chris gives 3 things she didn't like. To start off, Matthew Lillard. He was by far the best thing about this movie. Continues to be an underrated actor. He's also the only character that got proper depth, and an arc.
I think
and a death. Actually, he's the only one of the main ones that died.
Oh yeah, true.
I think if Matthew Perry had never gotten Friends, Matthew Lillard would have become one of the biggest actors of this time. I think he's got that same like shtick and sarcasm, and I've only seen him in Scooby-Doo in this movie, so I could be wrong.
In this movie, like he's not doing as much of a comedic like portrayal like Scooby-Doo, so it shows that he has at least a little more range than what we normally see. Yeah,
but it's yeah, it was like he's not comedic, but he still like gives off like this this sense of charm with his character, while also like portraying he is someone that is tortured by his ability.
Yeah.
Plot is secondary to the effects and scares. This doesn't really have much of a plot. They just kind of like wrote enough of a plot where all of the effects and scares kind of work together. But if you remove the house from this film, it's nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Which like is kind of disappointing because, well, my next thing is the set design because it is like a really like nice nice setting, and I think like other directors and writers would have a real idea of how to use it in a story where you know it's not the main thing, but it's a character in the film.
On top of that, like for me with as a character artist, I tend to really focus on like interesting character designs, and all the ghosts were absolutely interesting. Even the ones like the torso, which is just a guy that's just wrapped up in plastic without a head. They even portrayed that one like kind of nicely. I liked it.
The movie is very shallow. There's no character growth or even a resolution. They were stuck in the house. It turns out it's a demon computer. They escape from the house. End of movie. Is kind of how the plot works.
And then it just ends with Maggie going, I'm done with this. I'm done with these ghosts. I'm going back to new work. I'm done. And then movie credits.
Yeah, which like that last shot, I kind of feel like they gave her no lines, and the only direction was, hey, you know that black woman thing you've been doing? Just do that for like 30 seconds.
She literally had a section where everyone, like the tension's building, and then she comes in like scratching on like the tape decks and stuff like that. And it's just like, and it cuts to her and she's just like, yeah, out of nowhere.
Yeah. All right. My final thing is the costume design. It's like the prosthetics were well done, and it is nice that they designed it around some sort of story with each of the ghosts. Whereas like at some point they go through the different types, but and it's like I quickly forgot the names, but it's like looking at them, you know, it's like, oh, this is what happened to them.
Also with that scene, when they are listing off the ghost, they keep cutting to her flipping the pages, and it's as if she's reading them in order, but no, she's flipping it left and then she's flipping it right, and there's not like any consistency. She's going out of order entirely, but she's portraying it as if these are the ones in order.
Yeah, it's like she already read the book, and it's just like they didn't order this right for dramatic tension, and like, let me fix this.
Maybe it's just Basilius's like erratic writing. He started at the end of the book, moved to the next book, blah blah, moved around.
Nobody would ever think that was a house somebody lived in. Not even the richest person so removed from reality that they think a glass house is a smart buy would live here. It's just not a house. Like you would walk up to it and you'd be like, oh, so it's a trap. You're like, oh, so it's a rich person built, this is what he thinks the house is, and this is where he's gonna murder me, right? And the lawyer's like, well, shit, I didn't expect you to just guess it directly.
Yeah, it's
I do like how they also killed off the lawyer like right away, because he immediately starts making like sexist comments to one of the ghosts, and that same ghost immediately like just kills him.
Yeah, it's also funny that the lawyer gets killed by the house because there's no way Cyrus planned that.
No, not at all.
Well, like he just happened to be in the wrong spot at the wrong time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like the house is, and it's like to have like privacy or whatever, it has to go on full lockdown with the shields and stuff. Can you imagine like just ordering Domino's and it's like to get the delivery, or you just have to take your house off lockdown and then just like hand the guy a tip like nothing happened.
I also love how like at the end of the film, when the entire house like explodes and all the glass explodes, even the metal shielding on the outside explodes like glass. And I'm pretty sure they had the same ecto glass manufacturers make the metal too.
It's like they just took the ecto glass and spray painted it.
Exactly.
You want to get to closing statement?
Now it's time for closing statements. So, despite some interesting lore, 13 Ghosts never puts itself together to be interesting. I imagine this film was buried the next few years so Tony Shalhoub could win his Emmys. The film needs another remake, but by a filmmaker who knows exactly what to do with the story.
I heard they are potentially making a remake of the remake.
Oh yeah, I think I saw something. It's like potentially a series.
Ooh, 14 ghosts.
Yeah, which
That'd
like
actually be interesting.
Yeah, which like maybe it goes into the backstory of each ghost, like you mentioned.
Maybe we'll get Basilius' last name.
13 Ghosts is a highly entertaining movie. That's all it is. A zany horror movie where an everyday American family gets trapped in a house-sized demon computer that runs on ghost power. It's not The Godfather, but it's a fun movie. Sometimes a movie can just be fun. It doesn't need to be anything more than an entertaining 90 minutes, and that's what you get with this film.
All right. Well, Vera, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Any final thoughts on 13 Ghosts?
Bring Matthew Lillard back. And it's also it's a ghost version of Jurassic Park. That's it.
Before we get going, I just want to wish my sister-in-law congratulations on giving birth to her child. I don't know what gender or its name as we're recording this, but by the end of the day, I will be an aunt. So
13 ghosts died, so that way you're
what the fuck, Vera? She listens. But no, we're all thinking of you. Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been Film versus Movie. Thank you for listening in, and we will see you next time.
And thank you to Vera for coming.
Thank you for having me.